So I didn't get a chance to do one of these last week. I got real busy with a whole lot of things that's going on, and then this week I'm pretty busy as well. I didn't get to, or I won't get to rather, address one topic that was kind of requested by some people who subscribe to me about all the plagiarism and all the ripping off and all the theft that went on in Bill W. crafting together his big book of bullshit, which I'm going to need some notes, and I'm going to need the Armory papers in front of me to do that. And with me being pressed for time this week and a whole lot of other things going on, I'm just putting it out there that I will get to that, and I haven't forgotten about that one. But there's one thing that I saw somebody address me with in the comments recently, and I saw a similar comment on somebody else's channel that talks about AA. And another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about as well, but this is what got me started on what I want to talk about this go around is oftentimes when you see certain people criticizing AA in journals or in print or even in digital media in today's world, when you'll see some YouTuber who has a problem with AA, maybe in certain aspects of it, they will use this kid glove approach to it. They will say something like, I don't agree with the powerless, the idea that you need a higher power to quit drinking. I don't agree that you're diseased for life. I don't agree that, a person is powerless over their predictions and things like that. But then they will always fuck that up invariably by stopping and saying something like, but AA has saved so many people, and it provides a community to so many people. And which I by myself, of course, I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. But of course, nobody's ever going to accuse me of being nice when it comes to AA. Nobody's ever going to accuse me of handling AA with kid gloves. I mean, watch 5 of my videos at least, and you pretty much tell I have a pretty intense dislike of AA. And I have no patience at all for its silly dogma or any of its logical fallacies or any of the abhorrent behavior that I see going on in those rooms. But it does irk me, and I agree with what the subscriber was talking about when you kind of tiptoe around the issue, even on a certain called-in program, on an atheist called-in program that I happen to catch a bit of, not necessarily an atheist activist or something like that. I don't want to give people the wrong impression, but somebody called in and they said that AA is nothing but a religion. But they said it gives a placebo effect. It's saving my life and all this other shit. And nobody really pushed back hard on that. Not the way that I would have pushed back on that. Not the way that I would have said, no, AA has done shit for you. You quit drinking on your own and you're giving AA all the credit for it. But instead they said, well, I don't agree with the higher power thing. But if I understand correctly, your higher power can be whatever you want it to be. That's a complete and utter fucking lie that I have debunked on here multiple times. But it's still the kid gloves. You wouldn't have done that if it had been a Christian fundamentalist caller from the Westboro Baptist Church called it in, making all kinds of homophobic garbage statements. You would have rightfully called them out for the religious lunacy that it was, and especially if said Christian lunatic had claimed, well, I don't know if the Bible's true or not, but I think it gives me a lot of meaning. They would have destroyed that, but they didn't do any such thing because it was AA. But one thing I see a lot of AA people do whenever there is pushback on the program online, now with me, they go all out. When they show up on my channel, they pretty much probably realize that I'm not going to play nice with them, and I'm not going to handle them with kid gloves, and I'm probably going to lose my temper at one point or the other in these videos because it just infuriates me to no end what they get away with. But one little slimy tactic I've noticed they use on a lot of people's videos, like one video I saw not too long ago when I had a little downtime where it was an interview about, is AA a cult? And as to be expected, the person being interviewed was asked a bunch of softball questions with a bunch of, well, there are some aspects of it that may feel a little culty, but, let's do this little dance now. Let's just not name the fucking elephant right there in the room, Let's not really just call it out for what it is. Now let's just say, well, some of that stuff, like how only God can get you sober, yeah, kind of has a culty feel to it, but it's not. I'm real hesitant to call it a cult because a cult is like Jim Jones or some bullshit like that. But anyway, the tactic that I saw AA members using is a variation of an ad hominem attack, and it's a lesser known logical fallacy, and this is not exactly what the fallacy is that they're engaging in, but it to me is almost a variation of it. But it's called poisoning the well. And a poisoning the well fallacy is a little bit like an ad hominem attack, where you attack somebody's credibility with insults in an attempt to discredit them before they can make a point. But it's done in a more sly, underhanded kind of way. I'm going to try to outline some examples of it. I'm going to point out some of these idiotic AA comments, and just to give you a heads up on one little tactic these cult members use when they're called out for their when they're called out, when the cult is called out, I should say. Poisoning the well fallacy happens a lot in politics. If I was a political candidate, by the way, if you ever hear any word of me becoming a political candidate of any type, you are free to use this video as evidence to have me locked up and committed to a mental institution, because there is no way that I would ever consider running for any kind of public office or being involved in a nasty, disgusting, dirty field like politics unless I had lost my mind completely. So you'll know I've gone insane if I ever do anything like that. But if I was in a political debate and I was going to use the poisoning the well fallacy, and I'm on stage with my opponent, and there's a debate beginning. This is the most obvious way I know to demonstrate this in a real-world example. I might say something like, I care about the lives of innocent young children, unlike my opponent, But I, myself, feel that there is a public crisis needed for our youth today in this country, which my opponent obviously does not care about whatsoever. That's kind of an example of what I'm talking about. A poisoning the well fallacy, you're attempting to discredit somebody before they even have a chance to respond. See, even if my opponent at that point comes back at me with, well, this asshole just accused me of not caring about the lives of children. This guy said that I don't give a fuck about that. You're on the defensive now. You have, so yeah, you have poisoned the well. You have poisoned the discussion before it even began by kind of underhandedly slandering somebody. I see this going on in these videos where the people will not call out AA for what it really is, where they'll kind of tiptoe around the issue, where they will kind of say, well, they'll say something like, I don't understand how anybody can have anything against an organization that saved millions of people, something that they love to say, but they have zero evidence for whatsoever. And I have, as a matter of fact, and you could call this a poisoning the well moment, I have mountains of evidence to prove it has never saved millions of people. But you get the sly little snarky trick that they just used here. How can you have something against an organization that saved millions of people? See, before I can even respond with facts, before I can even respond with evidence, before I can even take apart the silly fucking bullshit that makes AA what it is, I'm already on the defensive, because they're trying to paint you as someone that's attacking an organization, an innocent organization that saved millions of people, which it has not. But I see little variations of this, one guy tried to come at me one time, a long time ago, and he said, well, if it just saves one person, isn't that enough? No. If it kills 75 people and it saves one person, meaning one person decides to give all the credit to AA for doing what they were going to do anyway, but 75 people fall by the wayside for every one who gets saved, supposedly, no. If it saves one, it's not good enough. But you tried to put me on the defensive by that. But even if it just saves one person, you're not interested in saving one person. Go to enough AA meetings and you can see what they're really interested in. They're really interested in needing and getting affirmations, positive affirmations from the group around them for saying all the right things and speaking all the right cult speak. They don't give a shit, as I have demonstrated on here numerous times, about people drinking themselves to death and dying. If you go to any AA meeting where someone has relapsed or someone has committed suicide or someone has died from an overdose, you see the ugly side of their characters come out when they say some have to die so that others can live. There, by the grace of God, go I. But when it conveniently suits them, they do the little poison in the well trick with, I've seen so many lives touched by this program. I've seen so many lives saved by this program. And just for you to be so vicious and mean and attack it like you do. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of lives destroyed by this program, and I've seen a lot of asshole old-timers like yourselves who say those kinds of things gleefully talk about the death of other people, gleefully do all kinds of horrible things to newcomers, gleefully high off of playing God in other people's lives, all of a sudden they're just so fucking innocent when AA gets called out and exposed for what it really is. All of a sudden it saves one person. You mean coming from the same guy that sits in meetings and saying some have to die so that others can live, all of a sudden is so worried about one person. Isn't it amazing how they're all compassionate and caring and open-minded when they want to be? Come to them after you've just had a drink the night before and you'll see a whole entire different version of them. You see, it's like a lot of things in AA that I've talked about on here before. They're all for everybody being able to believe what they want when it suits them. Okay, but when you have a relapse or when you're struggling to get sober, then they don't mind pulling that hard, stern, dour, Puritan face with you and telling you, well, the men who took me through the book and this program and all this stuff, and you're in your self-will run riot, and your ego and your pride and all that kind of thing. That whole tolerant attitude of you can believe whatever you want, that's suddenly nowhere to be found. It's kind of like literally something out of 1984 doublethink when that goes on. But I see another funny accusation with that attempt to poison the well kind of thing that other people have used on me before, where they say that me up here talking about the things I'm talking about is killing people. This is the same people that when someone relapses, they'll tell you, well, obviously he wasn't willing to go to any length. Obviously, how it works right there, which says constitutionally incapable of being honest and all that. Those very same people with those very same attitudes are suddenly worried about me killing people for exposing their phony cult for what it is. I mean, according to them, if you're willing to go to any length to get sober, nothing can make you drink. They will tell you in a heartbeat in meetings over and over again, nothing can make you drink unless you want it to. Which is weird because I thought I was powerless over alcohol, which if it was a disease that I'm powerless over, now I can drink when I want to and nothing can make me drink unless I want to drink? How does that work exactly? You can't talk about this program for 5 seconds without running into another contradiction. If you had some kind of realistic relay race where you had contradictions lined up on the field, and every time you got near a contradiction on a poster board or something, it was a foul play, you would never be able to win the contest because that's all it is a bunch of contradictions. But it is funny to me how they have one set of principles that is supposed to be the real AA, which is not really principles at all. It's religious claptrap. Let's just call it for what it is. And then they have another public persona and another public face for people who are saying, this AA thing doesn't work for everybody. If they got a title like doctor next to their name, then they're like, well, the big book says it's not for everyone. And, this organization saved millions of people. How dare you question it? How dare you talk bad about this? This saved my life when I was a homeless bum and a drunk and all that. Yeah, and a whole lot of people who went there trying to get their life saved have died. Or they're out there drinking themselves to death right now, and you don't give a flying fuck about any of them because you never offer any alternatives. You never offer any evidence-based solutions other than cult religion of AA. But when they get kind of called out on it, they get to put on their little innocent public persona face and they get to poison the well by saying something like, people are criticizing this organization. People are criticizing this organization and it saves so many lives. How could you do that? It reminds me of the schoolyard bully that goes around picking on all the little kids, practically begging for somebody to fucking destroy him, who finally gets his ass kicked and then wants to know why everybody's picking on him. But it is something I think that if you are planning on, because I've had a couple of people talking about writing against AA or even making YouTube videos against AA or whatever, or something you even notice in, say, scholarly articles where there are comment sections allowed, it's a little sly, underhanded tactic that they throw at you to put you on the defensive, to get you angry, I think, in part, and to divert attention from the topic at hand. Like if I said something like, AA is illogical, and I point out a logical fallacy that AA engages in, and they say, how dare you question the organization that saved millions of lives? Way to not address my point. My point was about a logical fallacy. We could talk about the organization's effectiveness and its statistics in another place and another time, but you just switched the topic, right? It's kind of like if I point out the part where it says something about for those who are an atheist and agnostic, such an experience is impossible. And I point out how that's logically flawed. And you say, how dare you attack an organization that saved millions of lives? I didn't say anything about it. Attacking an organization that saved millions of lives. I'm talking about your own fucking literature that's loaded with garbage, and yet you don't want to address that point. You want to divert. You want to make it sound like I'm some mean, horrible, evil person that's going after a harmless little self-help organization in a community of people who are all struggling to get better, when we all know, everybody who's subscribed to this, or everybody who's struggling with AA, or everybody who has seen the horrors of AA, we all know that that's not what's going on at all. It's rather a nefarious thing that's happening in there. But they sure know how to pull that innocent face when need be. There's another thing I wanted to bring up before I go. I don't have the comment in front of me because I'm standing in this room and I'm not in front of my desktop. But a lady chimed in on this particular video I'm talking about, where they were questioning AA's efficiency and whether AA was a cult. And she mentioned the fact that her husband of many years, who was pretty much a problem drinker and who caused a lot of problems drinking, was 10 times worse when he became a member of AA. She said that he no longer spent any time with his children. He no longer spent any time with her. He wouldn't have anything to do with any of her friends any longer, or any of their old friends any longer, because every time that the old friends in their life before AA tried to talk to him, he would start lecturing them about AA and AA principles and telling horror stories and all this other stuff. She said he missed his children's birthday parties so he could go to a meeting, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was a long, horrible story. But anyway, she said after 19 years of marriage, to someone who's become so self-centered that the program is everything and the family is nothing, she said, we are now getting divorced, and I will never, ever, ever associate with or date anyone that's in the AA program again. So the next time someone brings up to me, how dare you talk about this organization that saved millions of lives? How dare you to defend this organization that's killed millions of people and broken up many, many marriages? And I guess I've said all I can say for right now. Like I said, this is a busy, busy week, and I'm a bit pressed for time. I could have organized that maybe a little bit better, but I hope you kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about. Chime in on the comments here. Let me know how many times they tried to pull that innocent face with you when you bring up something badly wrong. You bring up a sponsee abusing. You bring up a sponsor abusing the sponsees, and they'll be like, "Can't believe you would talk about the program like that." Anyway, until next time.